create is not as important as who I create for. I actually needed to remove some people from following me. Full disclosure, like I said. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ivy, aka the Purple Screen. So if you guys want to know how I will be growing this channel and other social media accounts this year, you should continue watching this video. But before that, let me state that I'm not an expert. I'm not a social media manager. I'm not a digital marketer. These are just things that I've discovered that work. And I know that to grow, you actually need consistency. You need to show up. But aside from that, these are other things that I feel like can help a creator like myself who is still in her beginner stages. So keep watching, and as usual, I'll say share your ideas with me. If you feel like, okay, I got something wrong, or you feel like there's more I can do, just drop it in the comments. Also check my description box for my other social accounts and other details that you would need. See ya. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say, and this might sound cheesy, is the fact that I am going to be showing up as my authentic self. I paused to wait for the dragging. It's not like I haven't been showing up as my authentic self, but I did mention in my previous video that I struggled a bit with my health last year, both mental and physical. So I'm going to be showing up here, trying to share those things, trying to share things about myself more comfortably, not necessarily oversharing. I'm not an oversharer, I'm not an overyapper. I yap the right amount. Well, what I'm just trying to say is, if I'm not coming out here being authentic, if I'm coming here to do too much or to be fake, then who exactly am I trying to connect with? Who exactly am I creating content for? Because when you're real, you get to meet real people as well. So the best way to level up your content is just show up as yourself. That's like the first point, because I don't know, it's just easier to grow a community that way. There's no fakeness. And when I'm saying being real, I'm not even talking about in looks. You can look how you want. I know that there's this lady, I can't remember her name right now, like in this moment. If I do later, I'll put it on the screen or something. But I know that that lady just shares videos in her car. She talks about how much she's making on YouTube, and some people feel like she's doing too much. At the same time, she grew her community and grew her subscribers from that act, because just people just feel like, oh wow, she's being real, there's no gimmicks, she's not doing too much. It's perfect. And I know that there is no amount of self-preservance, or there's no amount of how you want to package yourself or bring yourself out that everybody will be okay with. People like what they like. But at the same time, if you're not being real for yourself, when you start getting bashed, or when you start seeing people like neglect your content, or your views are not matching or things like that, it affects you more, because you've gone out of your way. You've probably done something that doesn't sit right with you, and yet it's not working out. I don't know if you get what I mean. But if you're being yourself, if you're putting in like the right amount of energy, you know, you're giving I'm trying to figure out the right words, but you're giving just the right energy, you're giving yourself as you should be, trust me, you're not going to be affected by the external noise. So the second thing I'm going to do, which ties in with what I just said, is reaching out to my audience. I feel like I do that already, but you know what, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep asking you guys for communication. I do that a lot on my Instagram. I communicate in the chats, or rather in the comments. Yeah, even in the chats, because I get DMs sometimes. Even here, I always tell people you can send me an email, drop a comment, I will respond, things like that. So creating that communication and flow with my audience is very important for me, and doing that, I feel like it's going to help me level up my content. If I can't be genuinely working in my own purpose, how am I going to be able to help other people do that? Which is why we're here. So I currently create on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, well, yeah, sometimes you find me on Threads, but where I create is not as important as who I create for. And one thing people always talk about is that the audience on these places are different, which is so funny, because it's the same people that are on these places. Yeah, some people might not have all the accounts, but trust me, a lot of people do, and a lot of people bounce from app to app. So I don't know how the audience now becomes different, because it feels like what people want to see on TikTok is more laid back. So it's like it's the same person, but when they open TikTok, they want to see something more laid back. When they open Instagram, they want to see something more aesthetic. I don't know how that works, but I'm going to keep in mind the people I'm creating for, and I'm going to be intentional about these apps and how they work. So for Instagram, I found that last year, because I turned my personal account into my creator account, and I did that last year. So what I found was that I actually needed to remove some people from following me. Full disclosure, like I said, I'm here this is no fluff. I'm talking about how I want to grow, and it was no should I say, no harm, no foul. It was nothing personal. It's just that I find that some people following are not interested in content. They were following you in your personal account for a reason, right? They liked to see your, which I'm still laid back, goofy, but with content you post more because you have a lot more to share now than when you're just like sharing personal bits, right? So some people are ghost followers, things like that, and that affects your engagement. That is the truth, and that's why I don't believe in just packing followers. I believe in growing an actual audience that is resonating with the content. So some people just become ghost followers, some people just become uninterested, and I'm very okay with that if you're uninterested in actually leaving, because we're not trying to tie you down. You can actually unfollow and can look out for the content that you signed up for, period. I'm also trying to take note of my analytics, which I used to do before, but along the line I slipped up. Take note of my analytics, take note of my camera angles, because that is very important. You know, show myself in different lights, figure out what works for me, create new filming environments, you know, try out new things. That will also help me level up my content this year. I would also like to collaborate and create content with other creators. So right now I live in Toronto, so if you're in Toronto and you want to collaborate, say hi. Yes, I'm blessed to have met a few in person, some have met a few online, even some in the States, and I've met sweet people. So my journey as a content creator hasn't been a long one, but so far I'd say when it comes to meeting like-minded people, I've been blessed in that category, and I'm looking forward to what we can create together. So another important part of leveling up content is gear. I've noticed that what you see some people's gear is top-notch, state-of-the-art. I don't have a budget for gear this year, I'm sorry. I have my lights. I use like a phone light, I use a standing light, it's LED I believe. See, I'm not good with all these terminologies and stuff like that, forgive me. But yeah, I do have my lights. I had a dedicated area, or should I say I have a dedicated area for my beauty makeup. It also has the lights there. My beauty makeup content, yeah, has the light there. I just talked about that. So what else? I use my iPhone 14 Pro to film, so I'll keep using those, because like I said, this year, sorry, there's no budget for upgrading gear. Planning. Okay, this should have been the first thing I talked about, because this is so important. Please, you guys, I plan my content from start to finish, like from pre to post production. Yeah, so like what I'm going to say, how I'm going to look, every single thing is important. Sometimes it might not go as planned, but it's better you have a plan than to just show up nothing, just show up trying to, you know, guess and walk through the ranks. I'm not doing that. I am planning my content, everything, and that is why I talk about camera angles and all that, because if you're planning, you'll be able to get all of that right. So planning my content, planning the edits, planning the filming, every single thing, it's very important. What you're going to say, if you can write a script, do that. It's very important. And when you're planning, ensure that it is holistic, okay? So you can plan week to week, you can plan month to month, however you choose to do it, but that just helps things go a lot smoother. When it comes to editing, I'd like to upgrade my editing skills, and I did pay for a class, but I found that class, you know, to not be my speed. My content is mostly simple, so I just decided I'll figure it out myself. Maybe also I'll look into other courses and see. But leveling up your editing skills is such a game changer. It would take the content to a whole other level, especially if you don't have the right gear. Like I said, I don't use a professional camera. I mean, the phone camera is still professional, right? But since I don't have like an actual camera, I am going to ensure that the editing, you know, like I said, planning pre-production, production, post-production, so that's editing and what else, editing and staging, right? Yeah, I don't know the terms, forgive me, but anyway, my plan is to make sure that everything comes out looking gang. Okay guys, so that is the end of today's video. Those are the simple but effective ways I'm going to be implementing to upgrade my content this year. So you know what, fingers crossed, prayers up that it all works out, and let me know other ways too in the comments, especially if you're a seasoned creator, like you've been doing this for a while and you know what works. I'm begging. Or if you know creators who post things about stuff like that I could learn from, please go ahead, tag them, let me know, write their names in the comments, share this video so that I can go far, so that I can learn more, because guys, I want to be spending more time with you people. I'm not even playing when I say that. I want to be creating more for you guys, and how else will I do that? Okay, I need you all. I'll see you guys soon.